Thompson.
On the show today, we have the fabulous Lisa O'Neill here to chat about her latest book, Energy, How to Get It, Guard It and Give It. Welcome to Property Matters. Welcome along to another Monday. Thanks for joining us live on Planet FM or on our podcast, which you can download from all your favourite podcast places, and of course find us up there on Spotify. A massive thank you to Amit and AJ this week. We love hearing from our listeners, and your messages absolutely made my day. I think given we're about to talk about the importance of energy, your feedback certainly lifted my energy for the day last week, so thank you very much. Now, I've had the pleasure of listening to our guest of the day today present on a number of occasions, and I'm really honoured she said yes to chatting today. Lisa O'Neill is an outstanding keynote speaker, an expert in personal development, an author, mentor, and I've always found her to be someone who reflects on life extremely honestly, with humour and giving great practical tips and tricks to make the most of your life. So a big welcome to the show, Lisa.
Thank you. Aren't you lovely?
Oh, it's great to have you here. And every time I've had the pleasure of listening to your presentations, I love that you draw from your own life experience, both in the business sense, but also in your personal world as a mum, wife, and generally busy person.
Yeah, well, I mean, for me, business is personal, and I think, I'm not really a fan of people that try and keep themselves separate. I'm just one person doing my best, and it all kind of meshes in, like the kids mesh into the work, and the work meshes into the home, and, it all just meshes up.
Love it. Now, look, before we unpack your latest book, tell us a little bit about your own journey that led up to doing all these fabulous things that you do today. What sort of first kicked it off or sparked it off?
Yeah, well, I was I started off life as a graphic designer, and I always knew I kind of wanted to make stuff better, and I'm kind of allergic to ugly, so I was into, how can I make stuff look better? Then I got into the clothing industry as a graphic designer, and then kind of loved it. I've always been pretty interested in the fashion world, and when I started working in fashion, I started doing these little events, like talking to women, and that got bigger and bigger. And then I ended up putting together a national fundraising sort of arrangement with Farmers Department Store. And we did 7 years. We did events throughout New Zealand with farmers basically funding the gig. And
wow.
All the money went to Plunket. So I was a Plunket mother and committee member, and I knew that we needed to raise money, and I knew that Plunket mothers were very capable. They were usually super smart women who had taken some time out to have a baby, and so kind of used their connections to pull events together, and it was crazy. I think we spoke to 26,000 women.
Wow.
It was insane, and we did these really big events, and then one day I was just like, I had this woman come up to me at an event. She started talking about necklines and colours, and I was like, I don't care. I just don't care. All of a sudden I just went, I don't care anymore. And I realised that all these women were coming in going, I need a new top. And actually, they just needed to sort their lives out. And I thought, I care more about your life than I do about you. Don't get me wrong. I still love shopping. But I was like, I think this superficial stuff's not going to work. I think we need to work on why what is it you really want? And usually I know I can speak on behalf of the women, we're all searching for a feeling, right? We're looking for a feeling, and we want to feel, we buy something new because we want to feel treated, or we want to feel smart, or we want to feel pretty, or we want to feel successful, or all of us are just seeking feelings. And then I thought, I kind of want to spend more time on that than the necklines, because it doesn't really matter what you wear, does it? I don't think. I'm more interested in, are people happy? I'd rather they were, had their lives together, they're in their wardrobes. So I kind of got moved into more of that personal development space, and I laugh about how I kind of did a PhD in women's problems, because I spent 10 years sitting on the floor of a changing room with women in their undies, listening to all the, and when they take their clothes off, they tend to tell you all these secrets, So
a bit like the hairdresser, is it?
A little bit like that. So I did a lot of study of women's problems, and then I was like, life doesn't have to be like this, and I was lucky that I was in this generation where we had all these mothers living in resentment, and women who weren't allowed to work, or who could only be a secretary or a teacher, and then moving into my generation where working was possible, and I was like, I just want to help I want women to have it all, and I'm a big believer that you can have it all. I don't think you can have it all at the same time, but I think you can have it all. And I was determined to get it all. Like, I was like, I want the big house, the big family, the big job. I want everything. I'm very greedy. And then I thought, right, I'm going to get a plan, and then I'm going to help other people to have everything they want. That was kind of my mission.
Beautiful.
And then I ended up working with teams and conferences and speaking to groups of people. I love working with self-employed people because I think, well, I know how hard that is. Like, to get up every day with your own money on the line and sell yourself, like when you are your business, it's really hard. Like, it's hard enough being in business, but when your wallet is the bottom line, it's even harder, right?
Yeah.
So I sort of got a real passion for that, and just helping people to be better. Like, I've never met anyone that couldn't be better.
Nice. Now, you are extremely busy with all the different things that you do. How do you stay on track and stay focused and not trip up? And are you truly using your own planners?
Absolutely.
Excellent.
I do. I use my own planner. I've created all these systems that kind of work for me, and then the idea is I find a problem I've got in my life, I solve it, and then I sort of give it to the world. It's kind of been my whole model. And yes, I do use my planner. I have my Monday morning meeting with myself, which is a game changer, like just doing that high level. I'm a bit of a high level planner because I have a lot of stuff going on, and it's really easy to drop the ball, you know. So the planning's big, and I think the way I keep going, I really look after myself. Like, I know that I'm my greatest asset, and if I go down, my business goes down, my family goes down, everything goes down, right? So it's like, all the people relying on me need me to be at my best. So I think prioritising myself is kind of the secret, which is an interesting concept for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't do that enough.
No, I don't think enough at all. Like, we've been raised to believe that it's really selfish to think about yourself or put yourself first. And I'm like, no, it's essential.
Yeah.
Because for you to be an amazing parent or an amazing business owner or just an amazing partner, you've got to. It's that cheesy old metaphor of the bloody mask on the plane. You know, you've literally got to look after yourself, because if you're no good, you become a liability to everyone. You know, you become a pain to your children. You become difficult to work for. You become not a nice person to be in a relationship with. And I think a lot of people are out there looking for other people to bog up their holes and fill their gaps. And I'm like, I think that's a you thing, man. I think you should look after you. You know, the amount of people that say to me, I hate my job, and my husband doesn't make me happy, or my wife's this, or I'm like, yeah, but what are you in that? Like, where's the you in that? And I think there's always, personal responsibility is a really big thing for me. I think it's super important.
Yeah, and it's knowing when to ask for help and to get support, but then to be sort of in control of your own destiny.
Yeah, and I think, you know, asking for help is a really hard thing for a lot of us.
Yeah.
It's really challenging, like asking for help, showing emotion, all of those things we're taught not to do. It's a big learning curve, and I think that's big. But I also think you've got to, some people are just all about them, and that's the other end of it. It's like, okay, no, you're not actually, you know, the whole picture. And so it's being in service, but also serving yourself, and I think there's a really fine line there. It's like a tightrope to walk on.
Nice. Now, when you speak, you are very honest about your family and your time with them. Do they know how much they shape your presentations?
Absolutely. Yeah, my kids come to my presentations, and one of my daughters came to one of my events, and they said, "Oh my God, like, were you there?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, she says this to us at home, and I don't say things that I don't say." People were like, "Oh, you know, you should." I'm like, "Well, look, Tim, I'm very honest, and I sort of speak my mind. So, you know, I'm often brutally honest, especially with my children. I think people need to be more honest with their children, because it's like, don't tell them they're extraordinary when they're being idiots. Like, you know, it's your job to explain to them that they're behaving badly so that they can do something about it.
Yeah.
And, you know, give them some good, I like a good bit of feedback. So, yeah, no, there's nothing I don't say that I haven't told them or that they're not aware of.
I've just got visions of, you know, is there ever that family argument at home, and then suddenly they say to you, now, Mum, that conversation is not allowed to go in your presentation.
Yeah, but it's like, and I'm kind of careful a little bit. Sometimes I don't identify which child, out of respect for them, because especially now they're adults, it's like, well, it's not really it's really interesting because it's like, they go, you can't, I've had this conversation with some of my kids, they're like, you can't share that story because it's my story. And I'm like, it's actually my story though, because do you get that I was in the story? So there's a balance of being able to share stories without, exploiting people, or I think it's another fine line.
Now, when you look back on your journey, what are sort of some of those key standout moments in your career? And I guess what do you feel are some of the biggest challenges that you've had to overcome?
That's really interesting. I love challenges, so I don't see them as a problem. I see them as kind of exciting. Like I'm a bit of a weirdo in that I go, ooh, this might be hard. How much fun will that be? I find easy very boring. So anything, I'm very oppositional. So if someone says I can't do something, I will do it. And I'll make sure I do it. So I'm quite bloody-minded like that. But I think there's been lots of stuff on the way, like as a working mother, the stuff you put up with, like the judgment is really big. And I was never put off by it, but I was always very aware of it. Like if I went out without my children during the day, people would come up to me and say, oh, where are the kids? But they'd never say that to my husband.
Yeah.
And they'd say, oh, you're so lucky that your husband lets you work. I'm like, sorry, what? I'm lucky. Like, really? People would make random comments like that. Or they'd say, oh, is Mark babysitting tonight, when I was working in the event? And I was like, no, he's parenting. He's a 50% shareholder. He's not babysitting. Babysitting's a paid role.
He's in this mix.
Yeah, he's a 50% shareholder of these children. And I think, we're very hard on mothers. Like, are you away? Or where are your children? And I'm like, I just left them on the lawn. Like, what do you mean, where are my children, you idiot? Like, they're not, they're not left home alone. But people are just so nosy and so judgmental of I think especially mothers. It's really interesting. But I think, I live in, and so I live in a really small town, and people are like, oh, how do you do what you do? And I'm like, well, it doesn't really matter where I live. I think it's how you live is the important thing. And I've never been, I don't believe in limits, so I've just always chugged through, and I'm like, well, I can get on a plane. I can be in Auckland tomorrow. No problem. You know?
Who's inspired you along the way? Where do you draw your inspiration from?
I love people that make a difference. I'm a big fan of Maya Angelou, the American poet. Very, very wise woman who kind of had the ability to change people's lives with her words, I like to reverence people like Marian Margulies and Joan Rivers, and people who really, women who spoke their mind ahead of their time. I'm always really inspired by that. And I'm inspired by people like will.i.am from the Black Eyed Peas. I think he's one of the most inspirational people on the planet. And I don't think enough people know about him. Like,
interesting.
He's a singer, he's an inventor, he's a music producer, but he's done some incredible things. Like in America, he realised that like 80% of some of the ghettos had no access to the internet. And without that, and, he raised millions and millions of dollars to get devices for all these kids that lived in these compromised areas, which to me, that's really making a difference. And no one even knows that he does that stuff,
Yeah.
I think that's extraordinary. And to do that kind of undercover.
Yes.
And to do that without looking for the press for accolades, or he just really makes a difference. And he's a fascinating human in the space of technology and music, and just a really talented, amazing man.
Yeah, brilliant. I love it. All right, let's turn to your latest book now, Energy. Talk us through the different types of energy that you talk about in this book: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And I guess, how does your book unpack these for us?
Yeah, well, I think energy is something I'm obsessed with. I always have been. I had a adrenal collapse when I was 26. So from that moment, I became obsessed with energy and where does it come from and how do we get it. And so it's broken up into four categories. So there's the physical energy, which is obviously all about, it's all really about action, but a lot of it is the stuff. There's nothing new in that. The stuff you already know, like go to bed, drink water, eat your veggies, look after yourself. And I think, look after your body. Like you don't look after your body, you'll end up in trouble. You'll miss that when it's gone. So it's looking after your physical energy. And I think when a lot of people think about energy, that's what they think about. They say, I need energy, I'll go to bed. And I'm like, well, that's awesome, and that's part of it. But the emotional energy is all about, how you feel. And I think that's hugely important. And, I always say to people, if you were really tired and whinging about how tired you were, and I said, hey, you've just won a free trip to Europe with your 5 best friends, all expenses paid for a month, you wouldn't be tired.
Yeah.
You'd be bouncing off the walls, right? And so that's about being lit up, and what are you doing that makes you feel amazing? Like, what are you doing, or who are you with when you go, oh my God, I'm so happy right now? And for some people, that might be being at the beach, or it might be hanging out with their best friend, or it might be playing golf, or it might be gardening, but what are the things you really look forward to? And I think a lot of people don't, they do everything for everyone else. So getting, guarding your energy when it comes to emotional energy is all about boundaries of going, look, I'd love to come and help you, but actually I want to spend the day in my garden, because if I spend the day in my garden, the next 10 days will be better. I'll be lit up, and we don't protect our energy. And we're not, it's like, what are you enthusiastic about? So practicing saying no and identifying the things you want to stop. Like, what do you not want to do that we're doing out of obligation? Like people pleasing, that's a massive drain. And then mental energy is really interesting. It's all about what you think. And I spend a lot of time with people helping them with their beliefs, because a lot of us have got really old beliefs that we were given as children. And most of our beliefs are formed before we're 8. So, the things you were told when you were little are still sitting in the back of your brain, rotting away. And you don't. I often tell the story about my daughter came to me when she was 9 and said, hey, Mum, can I get my ears pierced? And I turned around and said, yes, when you're 11. And when I heard myself say that, I was like, what is that about? Why do you need to be 11? Like, I was kind of going, what? And I was like, holy shit, I just opened my mouth and my mother came out, like, that wasn't even my rule. That was some weird belief that I got trained into thinking. And so I said to her, you can have your ears pierced when you're 11. And she's like, oh, why? And I'm like, actually, I don't know. And I thought about it for a moment, and then I went, okay, get in the car. And she goes, why? Where are we going? I said, we're going to go and get your ears pierced. And she goes, but Mum, I'm 9. And I'm like, no, but we're going to go and do this because you can, and it's fine. And I was like, so we went and got her ears pierced, and then we drove past our house on the way home, and she said, are we not going home? And I said, no, we're going to Grandma's. And we went to my mum's house, and Tony goes, look, I got my ears pierced to her grandmother. And my mother goes, it's ridiculous, you can't get that done until you're 11. And I said, where did that even come from? And she goes, I don't know. Just seems like a sensible age.
The secret invisible parent handbook,
Yeah, right. And I bought into this theory that you had to be 11 to have pierced ears, which is just a made-up story. And that's just a really good example of all the made-up stories we have in our minds that don't actually matter. So I think examining your beliefs is a really big part of your mental energy, and setting intentions, like what do you want to do? And I think we spend a lot of time thinking about our physical diets, like what we're eating, but we don't think about what we're consuming with our heads. Like, what are the podcasts you're listening to that light you up? What are the books you're reading? What is the music you're listening to? All of that stuff. Because if you're listening to really heavy, sad music and you're reading books about people that murder people and it's like, well, it's no wonder you're bloody depressed, right? Like, it's like you kind of need to put some stuff in that's going to add some value, I think. And then looking after your self-talk, because I think we've all got sort of this evil twin living in our heads that's constantly talking to us and judging us, and making friends with that inner voice, I think, is really a big part of your mental energy. So many people are living with horrible self-talk that they haven't even really just, notified, or they haven't even justified it or understood it. They're just going, oh, yeah, I do have a voice. And I'm like, what does that voice say when you eat a cake? Or what does that voice say if you don't go for a run? Or, and it's like, oh, the voice starts, or what does that you know, that voice that wakes you up at 3 o'clock and wants to have a meeting about all the stuff and shit at, and you're like, oh, thanks, I really didn't want to be in this meeting, but you're wide awake at that point going, oh, God, you know, here's a list of all the things you've stuffed up lately, and you're like, wow, thanks for that. So getting in charge of your head's important, right, because that's going to have a massive impact on your energy. And then the fourth one is spiritual energy. So what are you connected to? And I think, to me, people choosing their belief systems is really important. And I think a lot of people get brought into families that have particular cultural or religious beliefs, and then they attach themselves to that and never reconsider them. And I call myself a spiritual freelancer. So I've kind of looked at all kinds of religions, and I had a mother who was a Presbyterian and my father was an atheist. So I got to sit in between them and go, So I look at my mother who'd be like, come on, we're going to church. And my father who'd be like, bloody church, not going there. And I was like, wow. So that was a pretty cool experience, actually. And I'm really grateful for it, because I got to sit back as a child and watch the contrast and go, I wonder why she thinks that's a good idea, and I wonder why he doesn't. And so I was always very curious about that, and that allowed me, I guess, the permission to choose my own beliefs, because they had separate beliefs. So I wasn't raised by two, you know, people thinking the same thing. I got to sort of choose that. And, yeah, I think choosing your beliefs, and do you believe that? And, you know, where do you think you come from? And what do you think happens when you die? And people, I don't think, spend enough time. I think it's fascinating. And I'm not very judgmental about beliefs. Like, I'm like, I don't care what you believe in. You can believe in Mary, Jesus, Joseph, bloody Guthrie Baron. You know, I don't resin paints. I don't care. Believe in whatever you want to, but I just think know what you believe in and know what you stand for. You know, I think that's important. I think people need their own belief system, and I think it's a safety net. Like, if your life crumbles, and I know so many people who've been through massive grief or, you know, huge problems in their lives, and it's like, if you don't have some kind of base of, who am I in this world? Am I just, you know, a meat suit wandering around on a planet? Or am I a soul? Or I don't know, what am I? I think it's like insurance. So I feel like when the going gets tough, you've got something to lean into if you have a belief system. So I think there's a lot in that. So the last part of the book is all around spiritual energy and what that means for you.
And you've broken it down by, you know, your cover title, Get It, Guard It, Give It, which I really love. And you've sort of covered some of this now about getting it and guarding it. But the important to give it away as well.
Oh, 100%. That's our job. Yeah. We're here to give away. You know, like, I really love Todd Henry's book, Die Empty. And it's one of those books that I kind of wished I'd written. It's a really good book. And he talks about, you know, you're meant to die empty. We're meant to give your energy is designed to give away. Like, you're meant to, like, I believe if you have the ability to make someone's day, then you should. Like, get out there and make someone's day, or, you know, change someone's life. Or everyone's, like, people get very tight and like, oh, I'm not going anywhere because I'm tired. And I'm like, you're kind of missing the point that energy creates itself when it's in movement. And if you're just sitting there holding all the energy in your little basket and not sharing it, then you're not going to get any back, you know?
Who do you think will get the most out of this book?
Oh, it's a really good question. I don't know. I think people will get a lot out. People who are sort of constantly complaining they're tired, which is people I meet all the time, but they're not doing anything about it. And I'm like, yeah, cool. So what are you doing about that? And they're like, oh, I don't know. I'll go to bed early. And I'm like, you're going to bed early is not going to help you if your soul's not lit up. Like, more time in bed won't actually help you, you know, if you don't have something that you're connected to or interested in, or like, what's the thing that you love that you lose time when you do it? You know, what is that thing? Is it running? Is it gardening? Is it playing with your cat? Is it climbing a hill? Is it being in the nature? Is it painting a picture? You know, is it tinkering in your tool shed? I don't know what it is, but it's like, what's that thing? And so many people don't have a thing that lights them up. And especially now, because we're so busy and we have to work so hard to pay the bills because life's got so bloody expensive, that people are just working and collapsing. And it's like the point of life is not to vacuum and pay bills. That is not what you're on the planet for. So it's like, what are you on the planet for, you know? I think that's really important.
I have a lot of this conversation at work because I'm heavily involved in a management role in a day job, but then at night I live and breathe theatre, and I direct 3 or 4 shows a year, which is a massive undertaking, and people always say, aren't you too tired? And I was like, I have to try and explain, no, that's what's filling my bucket to do really well during the day. You know?
Absolutely, and so if you took theatre off you, you would shrivel, because that's what's giving you all of your emotional energy. And people say to me, how have you got time to, like, this is my 7th book, I've got 4 children, I run 2 businesses. I'm like, I can't not do this. Like, writing books is my fate. I write 4 blogs a week. You know, it's like I love it, and it's something that lights me up, and I get more energy. When you do something you love, you get the energy back. Yeah. And people who don't understand that assume that theatre drains you. And you're like, no. Theatre energises me.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a lot of leaders and business managers that tune into the show. What advice would you give them leading a team when it comes to energy and the impact it has on their team?
Yeah, well, I write a LinkedIn newsletter which is about workplace energy, and I think it's so important as a leader to understand your people, full stop, but to definitely understand what energises them. Like, are they morning people? Are they afternoon people? What do they do in the weekends? Because if you've got someone in your team and you know they love mountain biking, and you say to them on a Monday morning, did you get out on your bike on the weekend? They will light up like a neon sign, and you've instantly engaged them. You've shown them that you care, that you know something about them, instead of just going, have you done that report? It's like, well, you might as well just, robots are coming, right? They're already here. And it's like, if you want to be a robot, be a robot. But if you want to be a human, you have to connect with people. And I do a lot of work with leaders who are, like, they didn't mean to be leaders. You know, they have a secondary capability. So they're really good at their job. Like, say they're a builder, and they're an amazing builder. And then all of a sudden they end up a leader with 20 builders under them. And they don't really want to be a leader. They just prefer to work with a nail gun. Like, they're much better with tools. But they end up in a leadership role, and they're like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, well, you need to be interested in your people. And I think the greatest quality of any leader is interest in people. Like, if you don't like people, just get out. Just don't be a leader, because it's hard. You know, I had 18 staff for 5 years in my business, and shit, it's hard. Like, caring about people and being interested in 18, like, that's like 18 children, you know? It's a lot. And you've got to really take the time to care. I tell leaders to write down the names of every single person that reports to them, and write one thing about them that you know. What's their favourite colour? Where do they like to go for lunch? If you were taking them out for dinner, like, I used to ask all my team, what's your favourite cake? What's your favourite clothing brand? And then when they had a birthday or something, I would get them that cake. Right? Yeah. So, and I remember one of the team was overseas, and I sent her a coffee cake in a red box, and she's like, oh my God, this is amazing. How did you know coffee cake's my favourite? I'm like, because I asked you, and you told me. And she's like, I know, but it was in a red box, and red's my favourite colour. And I'm like, yep, because I asked you your favourite colour, and you told me red. It wasn't that hard. But she was absolutely blown away that she got her favourite cake in a box of her favourite colour, which to me just signifies that I care about her, and I acknowledge her, and I know about her. And I think being seen is something that we crave as humans, and we're not seen enough. You know, people go, you don't even know what I do. I come in here every day. Do you even know my partner's name, or that I've got a dog? Or, you know, I don't think we know enough about each other.
Brilliant.
So I think that's a big thing for
them. It is, yeah. All right, so aside from your book now, you've got your public speaking, but you do lots of other things. For example, mentoring. Tell us a little bit about the mentoring that you do.
Oh, yeah, I love mentoring. So, as I say, I love helping people to be better. So I work with people who want more, who want to be more, have more. So they come and hit a ceiling, and they go, I know there's more out there, but I don't know how to get it. So people who want to, often they're self-employed, or they're in leadership positions, and they go, I want to go further. I want to be a board director, or I want to take my business to here, or And so it's just about unpacking what do they really, really want, and then how do we get that for them. So I work with people who want to speak and, be a person on a stage, and they don't know how to position themselves or brand themselves to do that. And I work with people who want to write books, and I work with people who want to run businesses, and so just people that get lit up by things and helping them to be more. And sometimes I'm a cheerleader, and sometimes I'm an ass kicker, and I'm kind of whatever's required. It's like I will sometimes boot your bum, and sometimes I'll give you a cuddle, and sometimes, I'll send you flowers. It depends what's required.
Nice.
But I think it's kind of like a best friend that's going to kick your bum and hold you accountable only to what you want. It's like, well, you said you wanted this, so don't growl at me now because I'm holding you accountable for doing it.
You're the energy that they need to push them along.
Yeah, just a bit of momentum. And one of the guys I work with beautifully said the other day, he said, "Oh, you're like an elevator." He said, "Every time I meet with you, I go up a level." I went, "Oh, that's nice. Isn't it nice?"
It's lovely.
Yeah, I think that was a really lovely comment.
I wondered where that was going to go, but that was lovely.
I'm happy to be an elevator.
And you also do tours and retreats.
Yeah, I love retreats. I love creating experiences for people. So I've just come back from taking 5 people I do trips to China every year, and that started as a shopping tour that I used to do, taking women, and I've got one of those happening in September. So people that want to go to experience China and get amazing stuff made, because everyone says yes in China, like it's the most extraordinary country. So I've done about 18 tours up there, and we go up there and have a whole week of it's amazing. A week of breakfast, lunch and dinner, hanging out, going and looking at amazing things, just taking people out of their everyday lives and giving them a different experience. And a lot of women who are either on their own and they want to travel, or they've got a partner but their partner doesn't want to go shopping for coats and cashmere. So they want to go, with other women. So I do that. I do retreats up in Mana where I take people, my retreat's called Repotted, where I just take people and, like a pot plant gets a bit buggered after a while and it needs new soil. And so we had 3 days just really exploring what do you want your life to look like and what's the next stage? Like now, maybe your kids have left home, or maybe you want to start a business, or maybe you're about to retire, or whatever stage you're in, what does that look like? And really designing your life while we're sort of off the grid a little bit, which is pretty fun. And then I do events, which is the fun events that I do on stage, which is just kind of like a keynote presentation, but it's for the public. So often people, if they're not involved with corporates, never get to attend conferences and keynotes. So I've got a big tour with this book coming up where I think we're doing 19 locations or something around Australia and New Zealand, which is pretty exciting. So I'm just about to start that next week. Yeah.
Well, I keep looking for the tour for oddly shaped men like me that also need fashion made for them, because, it's not all about women needing these fashions. Some of us strangely shaped people need a bit of help too.
Well, I took 3 men last week and we had an extraordinary
brilliant.
time. So I'm happy to do a men's tour just for you. I love it.
Brilliant.
Gather some men and we'll go. You gather the men, bring them all from the theatre and we'll go.
Yeah, what a trip that'll be.
Yeah.
We'll sing the whole way. Poor airline.
Love that.
Now, you also have an online program, which I love the look of, and I've got your book, Everything You Want. What does that course entail?
Yeah, so Everything You Want is about one of the books, I wrote. The last one. And it's really about how do you get everything you want, because we talk about people having everything they want, but they don't know where. I think this is what should be taught in schools. It's like we all want to have freedom and we want to have trust and action, but we don't know how to get it. Like no one's ever told you this is how you get freedom, or this is how you learn to trust, or this is how you step into action, or, learn to control what you need to control. So I wrote the book for self-employed people, but it kind of works for just every human, really. So, yeah, that's an online course. And then I've got an energy club that's launching on the 1st of June, which is a daily text messages, monthly podcast. It's kind of exclusive content for people interested in boosting their energy with like a text message every day, and then something to read every week, and then meditations and all sorts of stuff. So
That's cool.
quite exciting. That's
Great.
coming out in June.
And
Yeah.
people can sign up for that on your website?
On the 1st of June, yeah. It's not live yet, but
Okay.
it will be live on the 1st of June. So that's
Watch
exciting.
this space. Watch this space. Now,
Watch this space.
we're heading into winter. You know, there's something about Kiwis. We hunker down in winter. And do you find that zaps our energy a little bit? Is there sort of tips and tricks on dealing with those seasonal energy shifts as well?
I love winter. I'm a bit of a
Do you?
weirdo. I absolutely love winter, and I love it because to me it's really nurturing. Like, I think, you know it's coming. People wouldn't know it's cold, and of course it's cold. It's July, you idiot, right? What do you expect? Like, and so I think get a bowl of soup, get some woolly socks, get a blanket, and hunker down. Like, I think we're meant to have seasons, and I think it's really good for us to, wrap yourself in blankets and just really get into winter. Don't avoid it. It's really lean into it, I think. And I think it's a really lovely time to sort of grow yourself and take yourself away and maybe not go out so much because you don't want to be in the rain or the wind or I don't know, but take some time to really, like, I love working on myself in the winter. I love a good blanket. I love a good book and a journal and, just actually stepping into it and going, like, my mother's always saying, oh, it's a terrible weekend. I'm like, oh, my God, my favourite weekends are when it's raining.
Really?
If I can spend all weekend in my pyjamas and Ugg boots and a blanket, shit, I'm happy.
Brilliant.
It's just making soup, like, oh, yum. I love that. I love it.
See, I like it for about a week or two, but then that's my limit. That's my
And
limit.
then you have to whip to Brisbane or something.
Yeah,
get a little bit
absolutely.
of vitamin D.
You got it.
Yeah, there you go.
Now, if we were to, without sounding dodgy, sneak into your house and have a look at your bedside table, what books are you reading? Who do you enjoy reading?
Oh, I'm always reading about 7 books.
It doesn't surprise me.
No, I'm always reading a lot of books. I'm very big on books. I'm reading a new book at the moment by Michael Singer. He wrote Living Untethered, and I think it's The Untethered Soul, which is his newest book, he's an amazing, incredible spiritual writer who I'm kind of really big on. And I'm reading a autobiography, actually, of Grace Coddington, who was the stylist for American Vogue. And I do love an autobiography. I think that's quite gorgeous. And then I'm also reading a new book by Don Miguel Ruiz. It's called The Actor, and it's really cool. It's all about authentic. Don Miguel Ruiz wrote The 4 Agreements. Have you heard of that one?
No.
The 4 Agreements is probably one of the 4 Agreements and You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. They're probably the 2 most recommended books I recommend to people.
Brilliant.
4 Agreements is extraordinary. It's a very simple, it's a great book for people who don't read. Very small and very effective, and it's just about making 4 agreements with yourself so you can change your life. It's pretty cool. And and Don Miguel Ruiz is an amazing little man. I got to work with him in Melbourne years ago, and he's extraordinary. And, he's written probably about 30 books.
Fantastic.
Now, but The 4 Agreements was one of his first. So, I'm always ducking and diving into books. I'm a bit of a book slut, to be honest.
Well, I've got 30 seconds left on the clock. I could talk to you for hours. We've blinked and time has raced by. Where can people go to find out more about you, purchase your books, book into your men's trip to get fashions for strangely shaped people? Where can we go?
Just to lisaoneil.co.nz. So lisaoneill.co.nz. Everything's there. Trips are there. Books are there. All the tour locations are there all over New Zealand. So, all there.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
We will catch up again soon.
Can't wait. In Shanghai.
Thanks, everyone. You've been listening to the fabulous Lisa O'Neill. Have a wonderful week ahead. Next week, I'm taking a break, topping up my energy, and we've got a Best Bits episode of all the favourite bits from the last few months, and then we take a break for King's birthday weekend, so I'll catch you back on the 10th of June. Have a fabulous week, everyone. Take care.